Season's greetings. My name is Kelly, aka the Veganabler, and I am a home-based chef, small business owner, and vegan food hacker. You can find me online putting a vegan twist on all those non-vegan food items that you think you can't live without. And today we're going to be making a delicious season-appropriate meal. We're going to be doing a roasted butternut squash, mac and cheese, and an oven-roasted Brussels sprouts. So let's get started. So what you're going to need is one medium butternut squash, some rosemary, some salt and pepper, nutmeg, garlic powder, onion powder, breadcrumbs, nutritional yeast, soy milk, vegan margarine, olive oil, some flour, some vegan cheese, and some elbow macaroni. And this meal can easily be adapted for anyone who's gluten-free. So first thing we're going to do is peel, seed, and chop our butternut squash. I'm going to take the ends off just to make it easier to peel. Butternut squash is very thick. Luckily I got a brand new knife, so it's going through it like butter, vegan butter. Now I'm going to just peel it. You could easily substitute it with pumpkin, or if there's another squash that you like. Now, if you love making soups, you can save the peel and the tops and put them with your other vegetables to make a vegetable broth for your next soup. Otherwise, don't forget to compost. Now, I'm not normally someone who is very traditional, but I do love working with squash and pumpkin during the fall and winter. There's just something very comfortable and cozy about those flavors in my meals. So now I'm just going to cut it in the middle, just so I can focus on getting the seeds out. So it's just like getting the seeds out of your pumpkin. I've never tried roasting these seeds. I imagine you probably could, just like pumpkin seeds, and they probably taste just as delicious. The smell is so fresh. Got the majority of it. We can cut the rest off. So now we're going to dice up our butternut squash to get it ready for roasting. So I'm going to do a fairly big slice. Fairly big dice. So that should be fine just for the sake of roasting. They're going to get pureed after. So you don't want them too big. That's going to take long to roast and then they won't be even, but you don't need them too small. And we're just going to put them in a roasting pan. You can just cut out any extra stringy bits. Now I am by no means an expert with my knife skills. It's one thing that I always struggled with when I was in school taking culinary arts at George Brown College. My amazing chef Sarah Harrell taught us knife skills, but it's just awkward being a lefty. But my food still tastes really good. We're going to put some olive oil and salt and pepper and roast these in the oven at 400 for approximately 20 to 30 minutes. Olive oil. So you just need about a tablespoon, just enough to coat it. Don't need much. maybe a tablespoon and a half should do it. And then some salt and pepper. And now quickly mix the pieces so they're all coated in oil so that they don't burn when they roast as well. Okay, so I'm just going to give it a little shake just to make sure everything is covered. And now we're going to put this in the oven. And while this is roasting, we're going to boil our pasta. So as you can see behind me, we have a menu board, and that's because we're a busy family. So we divide up our days where everyone has to cook at least one meal for the family. I have multiple days just because I'm the one that's doing the recipe development and experimenting. And if your name's not under any one of these days, you have to fight with the other person to do the dishes. Well, the ones that I have up right now is meals that are a staple in our family and that I also offer on my Veganabler menu. So next you want to get a pot and fill it with 5 cups of water and bring it to a boil, just salting the water before we put in our pasta. And then you want to add 2 cups of elbow macaroni. And if you're gluten-free, you can easily substitute this with your favorite gluten-free pasta. So next, you're just going to bring this down to a medium boil and let it cook for approximately 15 minutes. You don't want to overcook it since you're also going to be baking the pasta in the oven as well. So as you can see, our butternut squash is beautifully roasted and ready to be pureed. If you don't have a food processor, you can just use a blender. And if you don't have a blender, then you can mash this very, very fine as a last resort. Smells delicious. It's going to add a beautiful roasted flavor to the mac and cheese. Next, we're going to add 1 cup of 5 cups of milk that we need for the recipe. Make a thin puree. I'm just going to check on my sauce. Yes, it looks wonderful. You can see it's a nice puree. So now I'm going to add some nutritional yeast, or nooch for those in the know, and add it to our puree. So I'm going to add a cup of nooch just because I love nooch. And I put it in everything. In fact, I can eat it by the spoonful, which my son thinks is absolutely disgusting, as I'm sure a lot of people will. But I just love it. So nutritional yeast is a deactivated yeast that comes from either the sugarcane or beet molasses. It gets its name from all the vitamins and nutrients that is in the nutritional yeast. So that's why I love using it. And it's a favorite among vegetarians and vegans because it's a great cheese substitute. It gives everything really cheesy and sort of nutty flavor. Okay, our puree looks great. So now we're going to get started on the base of our sauce. So now we're going to make the roux for our sauce. So we're going to need 4 tablespoons of vegan margarine. I'm using Earth Balance, but there's also Basel, another brand crystal that you can get at most major supermarkets. So you want to let your butter melt over a medium heat. I just have it high right now just to get it going. And then once the butter is melted, we're going to add 6 tablespoons of flour. Let me just turn it down a bit. So our roux is ready, and now we're going to add 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg. And I have an actual nutmeg pod. So I'm just going to do about yay much. You could obviously use just ground nutmeg as well, just to give it a nice nutty smell to it. It smells delicious. That's good. Next, we're going to add a tablespoon of garlic powder and about a 1/2 tablespoon of onion powder. Next, we're going to add 2 cups of the milk. And we're going to whisk this until it's smooth. And we're going to turn the heat up to high, and we're going to bring this to a boil. And as this is coming to a boil, you want to continue to whisk just so it doesn't stick. So what you want is for your sauce to start getting nice and thick. So now we're going to add our butternut squash mixture. And the rest of our milk. Also add a 1.5 tablespoons of rosemary. I'm using fresh rosemary that I've just cut really finely. You could also add rosemary powder if you don't have it. And again, you want to stir this all together. So we're going to let this thicken just a little bit more. And we're going to add some salt and pepper just to taste. So I personally don't like to go heavy on salt. I prefer pepper. This sauce is ready, and now we're going to add our drained pasta to our sauce. And we just want to stir to combine. Now let's get this into our casserole dish and into the oven. Lightly grease your dish. And then you're going to take half the pasta. We're just going to layer the bottom just to cover it. And then we're going to add some shredded cheese. Now I'm using Violife, but there's also Daya, there's Earth Island, there's Nafsika, and there's a bunch more that are equally delicious. So it's just a taste preference. A cup of cheese, approximately half the bag, since the bag is approximately 2 cups. So I'm just going to sprinkle that all over. And I'm just going to kind of lightly make sure everything is even. And then I'm just going to add the rest of the mac and cheese on top. We're going to spread it over. And then we're going to add the rest of the cheese. Just sprinkle it in the gaps. And next we're going to add 1 to 1.5 cups of breadcrumbs. So I made just a little bit more just to make sure that I had enough. You want to just lightly coat it. This is a type of mac and cheese that my mom always made this. Obviously not vegan, but topping it with the breadcrumbs. So I probably use about 1 cup, up to you as to how thick of a layer that you want. And now we're going to put this in the oven at 400 degrees for approximately 25 to 30 minutes. While your butternut mac and cheese is cooking in the oven, we're going to move on to our oven roasted Brussels sprouts, which is super simple to do, 5 minutes, and then they can go in the oven with your mac and cheese as well. So we have around 3 pounds here, so about 3 or 4 cups. I'm doing a double batch just because we are trying to eat half our meal as vegetables. I just cut any of the dark tips off and pulled any of the yellow leaves or ugly looking leaves that are in there. And really all you need to do is just add about 2 tablespoons of olive oil. I would say about a tablespoon of salt and a tablespoon of pepper, just whatever I feel like adding. Like I said earlier, I love nutritional yeast and I put it on practically everything. And you just want to stir that up so your Brussels sprouts are evenly coated with the salt and the pepper and nutritional yeast. And I'm just going to lightly spray my pan, even though there's oil on there. Just going to give it a little bit extra. And then you just put it into whatever dish you're going to use to roast it. Spread it out evenly. And we're going to bake these at 400 for approximately 30 to 40 minutes. Quarantine while. Did you know that only 100 grams or approximately half a cup of Brussels sprouts provides you with vitamins A, B6, C, calcium, iron, potassium, fiber, but most importantly, 6% of your daily protein. So don't let anyone tell you that you need meat for protein. So as you can see, everything is done and our Brussels sprouts are beautifully roasted. There's some black charred delicious bits all over it, and our mac and cheese is lightly toasted on top. So we're just going to cut into it. Look at that delicious cheese sauce. Let's get some of these. So there you have it. Roasted butternut squash, mac and cheese, and oven roasted Brussels sprouts. And I always put microgreens on my plate because I absolutely love them. So I'll just taste this real quick before I let you all go. It's perfect. It's so cheesy. It's delicious. I can tell these are perfectly done. Perfectly seasoned, perfectly cooked. So thank you so much for tuning into my cooking demo. I hope you enjoyed the recipes that I brought to you today. If you want to see more of my recipes, or if you're interested in just adding more plant-based meals to your diet, or taking a full leap and going vegan, I'd love to hear from you. So just reach out to me on Facebook or Instagram at The Veganabler. Happy holidays.